Now we get the pop out chat. What's up, everybody? It's your boy Ryan. Let's make sure this is working. Yeah, it's working. And this is the Thunder Channel. El Channel de Thundura on Nootropics. Hope you guys are having a great weekend. Let's talk about the weather, because that's always a great way to open this up. Is my mic on? Yeah, I think we're straight. It finally became cold today. It started yesterday, and it was after like this big rain. That's typically what happens. Like I was just waiting for fall to actually come. And, it certainly came. Like we had like sort of a preliminary introduction to fall like 2 weeks ago or something. And then it was warm again. And now it's like this morning when I went out to go to the gym, my car's gauge said fucking 46 degrees. All right. So it was definitely cold. It's like sweatshirt, fleece weather. And we're here. Everybody that I talk to, like in Pittsburgh, hates the winter. Like everybody that I've talked to about the upcoming winter, they're like, oh, fuck, everybody cringes like shit. It's going to be cold. Because we know it is. And last year, we really didn't get a significant winter at all. Like it was cold. It was very cold, actually. But we really didn't get snow. So it was like a more convenient winter, compared to most winters. So like we know this year, we're just going to get shit on. So every Yinzer or Pittsburgh person is like, all right, let's fucking go. Or, we're ready for the cold and it's coming. Okay. So, and that's generally how you have to approach this coming season. The good part about the seasons, honestly, though, is the holidays. Like you got Halloween coming up if you're into that. Cool. Thanksgiving coming up if you're into that. Cool. Same with Christmas. I'm into those things insofar as, it allows me to interact with my family. Like, Thanksgiving, Christmas, I will be with some family back home, which I'm looking forward to. So, and then, ultimately it's like 6 months max, and then we're back to spring. Like, that's what I think about the winter and this crappy weather. It's like, hey, you know what? In 5 to 6 months, which will go by quick, and you get some time to somewhat hibernate, focus on your goals and whatever, you're not out all of the time. You're kind of just chilling, thinking and whatever. It's like, all right, great. But then the spring is here. So get ready for the spring, get your body ready for the spring and the summer, get your mind ready. If you're out there dating, get your brain ready, get your shit together. If you've got goals in life, get all those things together for the spring, because it's coming, baby. No matter what, we know the spring is coming, and that's what keeps me happy about the seasons change. Second topic I wanted to quick talk about is what's up, Donald Pump? Hope you're doing great, man. Hope, life is good. Is questions regarding anastrozole availability. So yesterday I did a full breakdown on dialing in anastrozole and how to actually dose it in a way which gets you good results on TRT. It allows you to have a smooth experience, fixes some of your sexual dysfunction issues on TRT, because a lot of guys, have kind of lackluster erections and or next to no sexual desire, which you should not have with high levels of androgens, right? So this is why the estradiol and the prolactin is very important to control. And somebody recently said, hey, I can't get 1 milligram tablets, or I can't get compounded tablets, which is what I would suggest, the 0.125 tablets. Like, what do I do? In that case, if you can't get the 0.125 compounded tablets in small quantities, then you may want to look at companies like Amino Asylum and others that are like that make somewhat compounded like anastrozole, and some of them make it in liquid form, and the dropper has like, it's like, I haven't looked at it, but you can find a dropper of liquid anastrozole that allows you to dial in the doses in these minute capacities, which is what you need to do. That drug being prescribed in 1 milligram quantities is often quite ridiculous, right? There's too many people that aren't going to need that much anastrozole. So look into those companies and go to town. The third thing I wanted to quick talk about before we get into questions, if you guys got questions, line them up, baby. Line them up so we can get them answered. Is we haven't talked about bromantane for a while. That's this dopamine modifying drug that's essentially an actoprotector and was built for like Russian cosmonauts to like, have their body respond better to stress in fucking space. And now it's like a known nootropic. Don't sleep on bromantane, okay? If you don't have any, you should probably get some. You should always have it around. If you need like energy in critical moments where you don't have energy, and or like you have like fine energy, but you just want to function better in the acute period. I feel like my lighting is a little off here. I don't quite know why. Then get yourself some bromantane. Nah, that's a little weird now. Maybe change the coloring. Yeah, that might work. Yeah. Anyway, bromantane is an incredible nootropic to have around. 40-50 milligrams is typically a dose you want to take. Maybe start, if you've never taken it before, somewhat lower just to see how you fare and how you deal with it. But bromantane is one of the most powerful, most popular, pretty well-studied nootropics out there. It's fucking awesome. So I just wanted to discuss that for you guys. Unsuitable is saying, update on Alcar. It appears those headaches were flukes. No issues with Alcar anymore. Yeah, so this may be a case where like you initially started dosing, a nootropic, in this case Alcar, and maybe some of the extra acetylcholine it was making, or maybe some of the shuttling of fatty acids to your mitochondria and brain cells, like, somehow caused some sort of imbalance, or you just weren't used to that energy. This is theoretical, but in getting used to certain compounds that you're taking, there certainly is adjustment period. So that's not theoretical for certain compounds, but it's theoretical about like what may be happening. It's like, in that transition period is your brain trying to get used to it, and it's causing some sort of weird issue that resolves very quickly. That's kind of common that you might get, some sort of initial issue and then it resolves. I can't say enough good things about acetyl L-carnitine. I mean, that stuff has been around for as long as I have been using nootropics. It was in my first stack, which was piracetam, alpha GPC, Alcar. And this was like, 16 years ago or so. And I was like fucking blown away, bro. That alone, by the way, still a great stack. Piracetam, alpha GPC, Alcar, just together. Pretty epic. Donald Pimp, it should just be called Donald Pimp. Mr. Pump is saying winter bulk starting soon will keep relatively low body fat. Yeah, bro. Hey, good luck doing that. I mean, I don't know if you're on AAS or anything, but or TRT, but that certainly helps. At some point, I feel like I will go on a bulk. In the last 2 weeks, I was in somewhat of a calorie surplus, and I can, sense it. Now that I'm cutting back down from that sort of semi-bulk, 2-week bulk or whatever, I can see the bit of muscle that I built, and it feels good. I like to slowly build muscle over time rather than going in bulk and cut cycles. It's easier on my body, a 40-year-old man and whatever, but it's generally easy. I feel perfect, like, a good degree of the time, even when I'm in a deficit. Like I'll be in a deficit for 4 or 5 days after a 2 to 3 week bulk, if you will, like minorly going above calories 2 to 3 weeks straight. And then I build muscle. I don't end up being like super, super chubby. It's like you can't even really tell. I can tell, but the outside can't really tell. And then, I cut the fat and I'm like, all right, I built a little muscle there. That was good. But what is a good time to do it? No question about it. Dietary is asking, hey, does high T on HCG feel the same as high T on TRT, or are there any differences in effect? That's a difficult one to tell. I do have experience with it, and I don't know if I could really tell. Like I had 900 or so total T. Free T was much lower than it is now on TRT, though. So you have to keep that in mind. On testosterone, injections, your free testosterone is going to be significantly higher than the same amount of total test if you're natural. That's just how TRT works, right? You're just getting much more bioavailability, particularly because you're lowering sex hormone binding globulin by having constant androgens around. And that is going to raise concentrations of free testosterone. So yeah, it should feel different. My experiment with HCG when I was natural, hard to say how different it feels, but no question, as far as the labs go, you got more free tests when you're on TRT. Doesn't mean that naturally high testosterone plus adding HCG isn't a good thing. That's an epic thing, right? You're just fostering more fertility. You're going to build more testosterone on top of your existing natural testosterone, which is awesome. And, you're going to keep your testicles as functional as ever. And if you're natural, it's like, and you bring HCG in, well, you're just upregulating, testicular function, specifically conversion of testosterone to DHT, because you actually make 5-alpha reductase enzymes in the testicles work better. Unsuitable is saying, does ALA have to be taken with it? Haven't taken any. He's referring to Alcar, and no, alpha lipoic acid doesn't have to be taken with Alcar. It's a pretty good synergy because, you have Alcar doing brain mitochondria optimization, but alpha lipoic acid donates or creates more brain available glutathione, which is pretty epic. Like if you've got high levels of brain, like the master detox chemical to remove oxidative species, free radicals, etc., then yeah, your brain's going to function better with an already like mitochondrial optimizing chemical. So, they're good to take together. They synergize well, but they don't have to be taken together. It's a good question. Alcar and ALA though, pretty epic combination, right? Like for the history, like I've been taking that stuff for years. It used to be talked about years ago. Doesn't get enough attention now. Good question though. Vincent Beer saying, "Hey Ryan, I have a question. If you were building a libido sex drive stack, what would your top 3 or 4 compounds be? I'm planning on PT141, oxytocin, bromantane, and cystogen. Any opinions?" I think that may or may not work. The problem with this question, Vincent, is like I'm always going to approach libido and sex drive from a cure the underlying thing that makes you not have libido and sex drive first. And then, once you're there, if you want to fully optimize it or get it to like, teenage levels or crazy manufactured levels, which I don't necessarily suggest because that will take up your attention and make you not interested in anything other than sex. I've been there and it's like, fun for a little bit, but then you're like, what else? It's like, you don't look forward to anything but sex. That said, the best libido sex drive stack is really just going to be dependent on where you're at. Obviously, if you want libido, so the desire for sex, you're going to want to look at where your total testosterone numbers are. I mean, free testosterone too, but that usually falls into place based on where total is. It's different when you're natural versus TRT, but, generally that's kind of the take on it. So, I mean, if you're below 500, get it up to 800. If you're at 600, get it up to 850. You know what I mean? If you're at 800 and there's a libido issue, you got to look at what else you might be doing, that may be inhibiting libido. Are you on a DHT inhibitor like finasteride, dutasteride? Are you taking any medications that are fussing with sexual function like SSRIs? Sneaky stuff too that folks wouldn't even know about, like H2 receptor antagonists, antihistamines effectively. I can't think of any of the drugs off the top of my head. Famotidine would be one of them. That induces erectile dysfunction and loss of libido in some men. Don't know the mechanism, but it does happen. So you want to look at all of that stuff that's happening first. But, if I were to build a libido stack, if you're assuming that you're natural, what it would be 150 IU injectable HCG every day. It would be, on top of that, it'd probably be about 0.06 milligrams anastrozole every 4th day on that protocol, maybe every 5th day. And then I would add in between 15 and 25 milligrams of proviron every other day. That's what I would, that would be my stack for amping up libido and sex drive, because you're going to do a whole host of things in doing that, not just raising testosterone and managing what'll ultimately be a rise in estradiol as a result of that, and the HCG upregulating testicular aromatase. But you're going to be heavy binding and heavy saturating androgen receptors, and particularly the tissues where DHT binds to, because proviron's a DHT derivative, synthetic DHT derivative, and you've got DHT receptors and binding in your penile tissue, right? That's going to help significantly. A lot of guys think that libido and erection quality are separate, and though they are in some ways, they're not in others. You get your erection quality like peak, and you get sensation peak, you're going to have libido just because your fucking dick feels like it wants to be and stuff. Hope that's been helpful. I think the stack that you're suggesting is okay. However, PT141 is not sustainable in that it's not going to give you consistent results. It just won't, because it's forcing all this hypothalamic dopamine release, and that has a projection area, a reservoir in the VTA. When you deplete that, which you will pretty quickly with PT141, if you're taking it consistently, it's just not going to work anymore. And then you got to rebuild that with mucuna purines thereafter. Malan is saying the best aromatase inhibitors, what are the main differences? The differences are half-life predominantly, but, like chemicals like exemestane or aromasin are essentially steroid-based aromatase inhibitors, meaning, you make a little bit, it's not foreign to your body. Aromasin or exemestane, it's the same chemical. It's not foreign to your body. It's a steroid-based aromatase inhibitor that will kill off the aromatase enzymes that they're binding to permanently. Okay. It's suicidal. So, that's why you have to be very, very careful with that chemical versus anastrozole, which will temporarily bind to the aromatase enzymes and inhibit them for 50 hours or so. So, those are the primary differences. The reason I like anastrozole over exemestane is because anastrozole is very easy to dial in. Also, it's very easy not to, if you're smart about it and you've watch some content of a well-competent individual explaining it, which there isn't any out there, which is why I did that the other day, the video on that. It's like, you have a harder time crashing the estradiol if you're doing everything right on a Anastrozole or a Arimidex versus exemestane or aromatase. You take too much of that shit, and then you're up the creek with low E2 for between 4 and 7 days plus, because those aromatase enzymes have to then be rebuilt in your body. You've killed them with this suicide inhibitor in the cases of some of these other AIs. That's my take on that. Yankee Apple is saying, I noticed I feel stronger and have more energy when I eat red meat over other protein. This happened before and after TRT. Can you speculate what's going on? First of all, great comment, because this is absolutely true. It's true in my experience. It's true in my client's experience. I mean, guys, like, let's just look at the most simplest example. Vegans and vegetarians, that like when they get red meat in their diet, if they're paying attention to it, they start to fucking feel better. They start to actually have energy. What I would attribute that to is, if you're not used to saturated fat intake, saturated fat, if you're not used to bioavailable B vitamins, it's the B vitamins, it's all these things, but you have a complete protein in beef. You've got all of the sequence of amino acids that your brain needs, that your body needs for energy, that your tissues need for energy. And that is why, I mean, there may be some, truth to the omega-3, brain aspect of some good quality grass-fed, pasture-raised beef or whatever, but it's predominantly the bioavailable B vitamins, the saturated fat, and the amino acids. So that's essentially it. I feel the same, dude. If I go without beef for a certain degree of time, I actually physically feel it. I feel it in my mood. I feel it in my strength. I feel it in my energy, to an extent, because I'm optimized in every area, so it's not that significant. But I bring red meat into the picture and I'm like, wow, I suddenly feel better. Before I got on TRT, when I was natural, like at various points before I actually managed to get it at 900 total T, like when I was 33 or something, my testosterone was 380, 350. It was in a very, very bad place. That's what got me into all of the sexual side and the testosterone side of things when I was in my young 30s, because I was one of those guys that had ED in my early 30s, and it fucked with me and my social life and whatever, and my confidence and everything. At those times, when I would eat red meat, it would not only improve my libido and erection quality, but it also made me feel significantly stronger. When I had lower T, significantly stronger when I eat red meat. So all those things. And yeah, it is good for, marginally raising testosterone, likely via the saturated fat, but also the amino acids and the B vitamins. All this is necessary, for proper physiological function and thus testosterone synthesis. Specific tip for what it's worth. I forget your question. I think it was around sexual function. Yeah, get on HCG for sure. Get on a mild AI. Get some Proviron in the picture and go to town. Unsuitable saying, yeah, right. So it can be taken together, but not necessary. Is an acute effect, or is it more of an overtime type of compound? I think you're referring to alpha lipoic acid, pretty acute, but I imagine there's positive things that are happening over time. ACAS is asking, is in ADHD treatment, is your approach to combine ADHD medication, Vyvanse, Ritalin, with nootropics, or phase out medication and only use nootropics? So medical condition, can't really speak on it with definitive advice. However, what I have seen work very effectively in, post-Adderall syndromes where people had ADHD, which is what got them on Adderall, or ADHD-like symptoms, which a lot of people have, if you really think about it. I mean, not sure that's entirely separated from how we generally are, considering all the massive, we have a quantifiably higher number of inputs. What do you think that's going to do to the human brain? I get that some people are predisposed to this and have it, based on dopamine transport availability and some of these things. But I think a lot of us are ADHD. Anyway, yeah, I mean, the people that I've gotten out of these syndromes of post-Adderall burnout and or using Adderall, Vyvanse, etc., and wanting to not have to rely on them, and also having side effects like just having no personality and feeling generally drained after certain weird energy that they get from some of these drugs, is switching to working on the dopaminergic system via chemicals like 9-MEBC. And then after you've gotten some time with that chemical in the mix and you feel like you've made some changes which are noticeable, like you would notice those changes, then bringing in somewhat replacement chemicals that are just not as hard. And those would be bromantane, mecunopurines, maybe some other dopaminergics as well. And then bringing in cholinergics too, to kind of force a little dopamine release as a result of some of these other neurotransmitters like acetylcholine working better, and some dopamine release just because you feel good and your brain's working better. So Ghost Fusion is making a comment about, this discussion about like red meat, and saying creatine, carnosine, etc. are essential, completely absent in a vegan diet. Absolutely. It's weird, guys, when ideology influences what you will put into your body. It's very weird. I've never been, it's just like no ideology can influence me anyway. If there's truth, I'm fucking going to that. And that's how everybody should be about everything, whether it's your political ideology, especially that, like how much ideology is influencing people's political orientation these days. What is true? What is not true? Go with that. What makes sense? What doesn't make sense? Go with that. Robert Evans, how to increase vasopressin naturally for diabetes insipidus. So those of you that don't know, diabetes insipidus is a condition in which you have improper amount of, I believe, antidiuretic hormone, which is also known as vasopressin, ADH, and that allows you to retain fluids in a way which doesn't have you constantly pissing. People with diabetes insipidus, which is not regular diabetes, it's a condition in the pituitary, essentially. Those folks cannot retain water, so they've got to take drugs, essentially, like I believe the chemical that the pharmaceutical industry has for that is desmopressin. And, that essentially gives them synthetic antidiuretic hormone. The only way that I know to increase vasopressin naturally is forskolin. Yeah. I mean, also consuming more sodium than you're used to will allow you to build more vasopressin. Okay. So that's something to consider. But other than that, the only chemical that I know of would be forskolin. Ghost Fusion, have you noticed or had anecdotal reports of mucuna repairing and increasing nerve sensitivity, particularly in Johnson? Yes, I have. That's an interesting question. And I don't know what the mechanism is for this, because I don't think it's the dopaminergic or catecholinergic binding that's doing this. I think it's the inhibition of prolactin that is doing this. Yeah, prolactin. Okay, let me just make a statement. Prolactin will, not can, not perhaps could, this isn't a theory. Prolactin at high levels, especially exposure consistently, will desensitize the male penis to sensation. It just will. And it's not clear, because the literature does not elucidate this, what the mechanism is for that. But I imagine that it is mildly damaging. And think about what that means over a long period of time. Blood vessels in the male junk. Okay. Maybe it's messing with the pudendal nerve, the dorsal nerve. It's really difficult to say, because again, the literature isn't out there. So you kind of just have to guess. But I can tell you for sure, prolactin damages the penis. And so in these cases where sensitivity is increased via taking mucuna, which it definitely can be for some guys, it's probably just an inhibition of prolactin. It's allowing your junk to function normally. Side note, there's a thing called prolactin reset, which may or may not be beneficial for you, even if your prolactin's in range, but perhaps it was elevated in the past. SSRI, guys, this is really important. Where you have sexual dysfunction and prolactin's still in range and everything else looks fine, so you have no idea what to do. And then you do a prolactin reset, which is to take prolactin between 1 and 3 nanograms per milliliter, even 0, keep it there for 2 weeks, and then, allow it to go back up, but keep it between 4 and 8 nanograms per milliliter. And then guys get their sexual function back. Can't fucking explain it, other than, even if you're sitting at natural levels or like okay levels of prolactin, if you've been exposed to high levels, or even if you haven't, it's like you never know. There's a range, but some guys need to sit on the lower end of prolactin. Prolactin reset will be the topic of a video that I will be doing soon. Critically important and useful for a lot of guys. Think about it. Zach has got a proposition for us, or a situation. He goes, total test 900, free at 240, pretty high. E227, pretty good. DHT 50 could be higher. DHT free 5.23 could be higher. Hematocrit, well, it's around balance. Should be a little lower. Drink a little water, do more cardio, maybe inject more frequently. TRT dose is 160 once a week with an AI, 1 milligram a week, anhedonia and PSSD. Okay, yeah, you won't resolve your PSSD with that. The numbers look okay, but no question, everybody that has PSSD should have HCG in the picture. Okay, you need your testicles to be functional and firing. You need the subsequent neurosteroids from, the test that's being produced and the intratesticular production of neurosteroids. You need the downstream neurosteroids like allopregnanolone to work on GABA and other things. And recognize that the SSRI that you took blasted you with neurosteroids, which downregulated your production of neurosteroids. So it's unclear how much you need like therapy of neurosteroids and androgens over time in order to resolve this. But I don't think that's a bad protocol, but you need HCG into the picture for sure. That will help you actually make more DHT. I think your at this point, your test should probably be about 1,000, 1,100, maybe 1,200. Explore higher levels of testosterone and see how you fare and get HCG in the picture for sure. You may also have penile rehab that needs to happen. So you may need to look at the P-shot, shockwave therapy, pumps, PDE5 inhibitors, like on a constant basis, like 5 to 8 milligrams every day, so that you have constant blood flow. You may actually have to rework or do therapy on your junk in order to get better from this. So keep that in mind. Ghost Fusion is saying, does 9-MeBC feel different from Mucuna? Yes. And bromantane? Yes. Is it as simple as they all raise dopamine? No. 9-MeBC like upregulates the genetic action of building dopaminergic neurons and differentiated dopaminergic neurons. So like, you're going to be building more dopamine neurons, where in the case of downed dopamine, like you probably have some neurons that are not functioning correctly, and networks that are predominantly dopaminergic neurons that are weak, or, maybe their axons and dendrites aren't very strong, which you can alleviate with Bacopa, Monnieri. And there's just not good dopaminergic firing for one reason or another. 9-MeBC will, for most people, assuming there's no constant like invader that's still causing the issue, like in your regimen, like another medication, will kind of rebuild the dopaminergic system from the bottom up. Whereas bromantane just make you synthesize a little more dopamine, and Mucuna is just building block to straight dopamine. So very different effects. ACAS is saying, if someone was genetically predisposed to high LDL, how would you manage red meat egg consumption so as to not spike LDL to unhealthy levels? Good question. Very difficult question for me to answer. You may want to look at watching some live streams from a bodybuilder called Vigorous Steve, who talks about citrus bergamot, I believe, is a chemical that you could probably use to lower LDL. Don't quote me, but he's got a lot of strategies for doing that, because in the bodybuilding scene, these guys are taking high levels of anabolic androgenic steroids, and their LDL is going through the fucking roof, dude. So they've got all the strategies for doing that. You definitely want to look into Vigorous Steve's channel. He probably has done a video about it, but if not, like, just watch the live streams, fast forward through them, because you can see the questions pop up, like you can see these questions popping up right here. So find some questions on LDL and HDL. It may take you some time to do it, but it'll be worth it, if it's something that you need to figure out. Unsuitable saying, for Alcar, since it plays with fatty acids, what if it was taken with ketones, specifically beta hydroxybutyrate? Yeah, probably you're going to have a pronounced effect. So Unsuitable also says, I stumbled upon BHB. Yeah, beta hydroxybutyrate when it was listed on a label. Looked it up and it's a ketone. Yes. Ketones and Alcar work well. So does ketosis and Alcar. If you take Alcar and you're in ketosis, it makes the experience better. Yes, it's a good synergy. Madeline is saying E2 is high, 50 plus. Yet I'm not on TRT. Would something like Clomid be more appropriate as an AI? Nope. Clomid is not an AI. Clomid is going to block the receptor binding of estrogen in the ERB and or ERA, I'm not sure, receptors in the pituitary. Not necessarily elsewhere. I mean, it does block it in your retina, which is not good either, and probably other places, but it's you still have the same level of serum. So, I mean, there's still receptor binding happening, and it's not a complete blockade of those receptors depending on the dose and your frequency. Nope, Clomid's not an AI, not at all. In fact, if you're on Clomid, you're going to be building more you're going to be building more testosterone and converting some of that testosterone to estradiol. What about Proviron? What about it? In what context? Ghost Fusion is saying, Bacopa is very mercurial for me. I'll take it once after not having it for 6 months and feel absolutely locked in flow state. Then another day I'll take it to be an emotionally strange compound. Interesting. It's not an acutely effective compound, typically speaking, man. I mean, that could be why. It's like maybe initially it is inhibiting or it's like upregulating the SERT. And so like, you feel a little better because your brain is managing serotonin more in like a tight knit fashion, because Bacopa will do that. I don't think you're getting acute axon and dendrite growth from, one dose of Bacopa. I think if anything, it's regulating the SERT for the time being, and then you're recycling and putting back into use serotonin easier, and that may be contributing to your flow state. When I did that video about serotonin, like serotonin is pretty important, man. It's like, it's gotten so much negative energy on the internet, like over the last 5 years or 10 years or whatever. It's actually very critical for healthy brain function, guys. Serotonin is important. And it might just be the case that Bacopa is doing that. It's like regulating serotonin for a brief period. Meantime, guys, as I said in the beginning, and as the coupon code was put out, the code 15 now will save you 15% on the Cortex stack. I'm so excited about V2 because, look, when we launch stacks that are killer, that I've tested, that the beta people are like, this is fucking phenomenal, it just gets me excited because, the supplement industry is not very regulated, so people can put out crap, but then no one's going to buy it. And people are going to talk shit on the web, and you're just not going to have a good business. Like, I like putting out stuff that people genuinely enjoy taking and genuinely are excited about, and that genuinely works. And that's this stack, okay? 15% off. The code is 15 now. Just 15 and then the word now all together at checkout. It'll take 15% off the Cortex stack. Look, high level focus, pristine flow, stimulant balancer combo. So it's stimulating, but then there's a little bit of a balance in there, a very small amount. Motivation and energy, crushes brain fog. You got brain fog and you take the Cortex stack, say goodbye to it. Unless you got something crazy in the mix that is causing you to have brain fog, which you definitely need to look at, you take the Cortex stack and that's it, man. You're good. 15% off, 15 now is the code for the Cortex stack. Do it at livecortex.com. All right, let's see if there's any more questions that I need to get to here. I got a question about growth plates. Interesting. Recommend someone whose growth plates are still open, still growing at 21 and want to maximize their height. I wouldn't know. Maybe HGH, maybe more growth hormone, or the secretagogues, like the chemicals that are essentially forcing the secretion of growth hormone. What I recently learned was stimulating to growth hormone. I think it was BPC 157. Okay. Yeah, it was actually. BPC 157 will stimulate growth hormone receptor sites. Okay. So that might be something to look into. Stefan is saying, do you think pure theobromine has the same effect as an equivalent cocoa dose? I don't know. It's a difficult thing to say. I wouldn't think so. I don't think that they're similar. No, they're just, if you consume cocoa in chocolate or something, the effect on neurological activity is much different than concentrated theobromine. Because when you have in cocoa, like in a chocolate bar or something, or in cocoa with like some other sort of like preparation, you have sugar in there, you've got some fat in there, you have the chocolate in there, like it's just other chemicals that are doing different things to your physiology acutely rather than just purified theobromine. That's why people, like someone tried to make the comparison between my suggestion on don't go above 200 milligrams of theobromine, which you shouldn't, definitely, unless you want to be overstimulated. Some people will be fine with it. There's a little more in some chocolates. It's very rare that you're going to get more theobromine than that in some chocolates, but it doesn't translate. Just like caffeine, you drink coffee, and then, it's 112 milligrams of caffeine, or average cup of coffee. But then you take 112 milligrams of caffeine powder, vastly fucking different experience, my friend. So you're going to be careful, like cut it down. You'd want to be taking like 60, 70 milligrams of the powder instead of 112 because it's just concentrated powder. Definitely different. Lorcan. Love that name. Sounds like a Viking name. Importance of saturated fat intake and fat in general as it relates to nootropics and test levels. Test levels critical. Because saturated fat usually typically has cholesterol in it, and that's kind of what you need for synthesis of testosterone at the testicular level. Lean meat or fatty meat, which is king? Yeah, somewhere in between is what I would say. Yeah, it's like the beef that I eat isn't necessarily fatty, but if there are some fat parts on it, great. If you're getting a good quality piece of beef, it's going to have some saturated fat in it generally. But as it relates to nootropics, yeah, not that important to take acutely with nootropics unless you're dosing, something fat soluble, which by the way, a lot of the fat soluble chemicals are also water soluble, or you'll get the effect just fine without eating fat. Like anastrozole is a fat soluble chemical, but you can take it on an empty stomach and you're still going to get a positive effect from it. But, your regular diet outside of this acute period should have saturated fat in it, for you generally to function better in a neurological capacity, among other things. So that's what I take. That would be my take on that. Zach is saying, should I use Proviron instead of HCG? Oh, I think in relation to your PSSD issue, if you're correct. Again, you got to put the context in your questions, man. Unsuitable is saying, that's exactly what I was thinking. Ketosis would make Alcar work better. Definitely does. If you get into ketosis, take some Alcar, you're going to have an interesting time. Be careful though. You might overstimulate yourself. Timothy, best way to lower prolactin without pharmaceuticals. Pyridoxal 5-phosphate in conjunction with Shisandra, in conjunction with lowering your serum estradiol. That is honestly the best way to do it. Vincent Beer is saying, non-MBC seems to have low oral bioavailability without holding sublingually, and absorption should just be adjusted, or should dose be adjusted. Yeah, this is Reddit nonsense. Whether it has low oral bioavailability or not, it still has some, and it's a very effective compound orally, and it's studied orally. Get off of Reddit. Those guys are idiots because they're dosing it sublingually, which I would not fucking do. Yeah, get that out of your head. Ghost Fusion is saying, I've noticed extra virgin olive oil very acutely lowers post-sexual prolactin release. I wonder if there's a mechanism for that. Interesting. Is there a place for Proviron and PSSD treatment? Potentially, yeah. I mean, if you can't get resolution from doing everything else right, which usually you can, you just may not know what to do. Penile rehab is very, very important in these cases. And if you're just taking chemicals like even TRT, HCG, but you're not doing rehab on your drunk, you're not going to get better, right? And so if you've exhausted all those options for what is 6 to 9 months, because penile rehab may take 6 to 9 months, which I can guarantee you probably haven't done, then maybe look into Proviron in addition to a TRT HCG protocol. I wouldn't use it as your AI. It will have mild aromatase inhibition activity, but to have an AI in there, you may need to have a very ultra low dose. But yeah, it's not it's like there are better things that you should be doing first and ruling all that stuff out. What this assumes, like if Proviron will be effective, is that you have desensitized androgen receptors. That's the only way this would really be effective, because Proviron in the scientific literature is known to upregulate androgen receptors in a way which your regular innate DHT couldn't, which is fucking bizarre. That's why Mysterolone or Proviron is a really interesting chemical. Sandra is saying, love your supplements. I occasionally get a mild headache. Is that normal? Hector. I love how you always have Hector at the end of everything you say. That's kind of funny to me. No, it's not normal to have a headache if you're taking, a nootropic chemical. You may want to look at the fact that it potentially could be overstimulating you, or what else is in your regimen. I mean, if you have coffee with any of our stacks at this point, like for 85+% of people, it's going to be an even epicer experience. But for some people, that's overstimulating. It depends on, how you respond to, to stimulants. SB003 wants to buy Cortex and Torque, but won't allow. Yeah, because you're from the UK. Yep, we can't sell product in the UK. It's been a long, ongoing headache. And, it's just not something that I have been able to resolve. Will I resolve it in time? I'm trying to. David Finnegan is saying, best protocol for Picamillin depends on what you're targeting. So include context about like what you're trying to do in questions like that, because then I could give you a better protocol. Generally 100 to 300 milligrams every day or every other day, and just kind of see if it's like giving you alleviation from what is likely anxiety or, otherwise lack of GABAergic symptoms. Ghost Fusion is saying, what do you think are the mechanisms by which meditation changes neurotransmitter balance? Incredibly fascinating how broad and significant its benefits are. What I think is that you're strengthening the connection between hemispheres via thickening the corpus callosum. So that's this thread-like area between the hemispheres that allows interhemispheric communication. So that's scientifically conclusive. So that's like one mechanism by which brain performance is better when you're doing that. You are optimizing the thickness and the function of like the anterior cingulate cortex, the amygdala. These are stress response areas of your brain, so you're dampening the stress response as a result of that. I don't know what that is doing to neurotransmitters, so it's a good question. What is conceivable though is in meditation, which is good meditation, transcendental meditation is really the best meditation in my opinion. You're training the muscle of attention. You're actually training yourself to do focus. So in doing that, and at the same time, not much else is going on. So it's like in certain meditative states, I think the research backs this up. But I also think that you can induce somewhat of a state similar to like sleep spindles, which rejuvenate neurotransmission. So on top of these other things that are happening, including alpha brainwave frequencies, which is an electrical frequency kind of characterized by relaxation that you induce by meditation. There's just like all this hemispheric, like regional stuff happening. And there may be neurotransmitter optimization as a result of you just like, building the muscle of focus. On that, couldn't give you an answer. It's probably out there in the literature though. 00 Vengeance, welcome back. Haven't seen you in a while. Hope you're doing great. Saying, what up, Ryan? What is your opinion on learning MMA and its effect on the brain when you accumulate hits on the head over time? I don't think it's good. I mean, some of these guys manage to get away with it, right? I mean, their testosterone's high, or, let's be frank, a lot of the guys in the UFC are taking, anabolic androgenic steroids that, their testosterone levels look fine, but they've got some, fringe AAS in there that, testosterone and anabolic androgenic steroids have a very beneficial effect on brain function, including synthesis of dopamine and release of dopamine, but other neurotransmitters too. And so it's difficult to tell what benefit they're getting from those chemicals, but I think it's allowing them to take more hits on the head and not have, issues, at least, significant issues. It's very clear though, right? Some boxers that end up having shaking and having these weird diseases and not being able to, appropriately formulate sentences in their 60s and something, and that's from getting hit in the head. Aaron with the super chat is saying, thoughts on N-clomiphene mono, I'm 38 and natural. Maybe a good idea for you to go on. At 38, however, I mean, I don't know where your testosterone is, but if you're looking at Clomid or raising it, you're 38. You've got the cutoff for TRT. I just, with Clomid and its analogs, I have seen less people have a good experience and be able to control the numbers as effectively as I've seen people be able to have a good experience and control numbers on TRT. So my honest suggestion for to you would be get to a clinic, because at 38, you're at the age where they'll prescribe you TRT, and if your numbers are fine now, like not deficient, get a clinic that will treat symptoms and not necessarily labs. Like, discuss how you're having erectile dysfunction if you are, or even if you aren't, to get them to write you a script for a test and start sending it your way. Appreciate the super chat. Using ketones while non-ketosis pointless? I don't believe so. I believe you can get some good brain function from exogenous ketones. Ghost Fusion, how frequently do you take NAC? I had a somewhat long stint with Glynac, which is high dose glycine and high dose N-acetylcysteine. I want to say that was 4 months ago, and in the previous 2 months or something. Since then, I haven't taken NAC to my knowledge. Yeah. I would only take NAC if I really felt like I needed NAC, Like, I didn't even take it this time with COVID coming around because I took a very hardcore drug that disrupts the replication of it. I just stuck to, tried and true on that. Zacho, sorry about that. Yes, should I use Proviron instead of HCG for PSSD? No, you should use HCG with testosterone and an AI and penile rehab. Anhedonia was caused by Adderall. 9-MeBC may be able to help you in that case. Also on memantane, I believe opioid receptor interaction or something. I don't remember exactly what it's doing, but I think last time I looked at it, and every time I've looked at it, I kind of went, oh, that's sort of a gross drug and something I wouldn't really mess with. You can refresh me on what the mechanism is, and then I can re-answer that question. ACOS is saying, is HCG monotherapy a valid approach to PSSD treatment? It's valid, but it's just like, this assumes, and this is the problem with the PSSD community, this assumes that PSSD is one thing. It's just, nobody really understands, like with some of these theories on what would work, like what is happening and what needs to be addressed. I've been working on PSSD for like 6 years. Like, I've had clients for 6 whole years where I've gotten to see what doesn't work, and that's neurotransmitter manipulation, and what does work, which is hormone manipulation and penile rehab. Okay. So, HCG may be effective, like based on how atrophied your penis is, and how, like, if it's not atrophied significantly, and like how kind of terrible the hormone situation is where you had a lack of exposure to androgen binding in penile tissue and elsewhere, and it's like it depends on your situation. Some guys, if it's a mild case of PSSD or if it just started happening, get on HCG and may be able to resolve it. Other guys, you're going to need TRT, HCG, adequate estrogen control, penile rehab, potentially P-shot, maybe shockwave therapy, maybe penis pumping, maybe PD5 inhibitors, maybe all of that. It may be more, and over a long period of time in order to get everything back. But ACOS says, saw massive benefits from HCG monotherapy, especially after stopping the protocol. My libido spiked for a few weeks. Yeah. Certainly. One of the most critical parts, a critical part of recovering from PSSD is getting the testicles functioning really, really well and getting the neurosteroids firing really, really well. And that may take time after you do that for things to start to get better. But, if I had a fresh new PSSD client, I personally wouldn't use exclusively HCG. I'd be using many other things in the protocol. Ghost Fusion, I can 100% vouch for that. Not only does meditation lower my subjective need for sleep, but instinctive feeling during the meditation is that my brain is reorganizing, increasing coherence. Totally. Absolutely. Look, that's one of those things that we all need to do, and we all don't want to, because we're addicted to our phones, and I'm no different. I'm addicted to my phone. I'm addicted to everything. I'm addicted to technology. Admittedly, I have no qualms about admitting it, because it's just our age, and it's I don't think it's a bad thing. It's just what we do. It's what we're doing. It's changing our brains, honestly, for the better. Depends on how you look at it. If I took all this, nonsense about all the screens and whatever changing your brain for the worse, I maybe would think that my brain's only gotten better. But yes, I don't even know where I got on that. Meditation does just allow one, because of all these simultaneous inputs, to regain control of their brain. And what I was really getting at is it's just, we're addicted to so much shit that we don't meditate enough, and we need to. And I'm saying I need to meditate more. So I'm glad you do, that'll influence me to get on it. Because I know how beneficial it is, man. When I sit and do TM and just focus and nothing else, dude, I get into crazy, crazy states. I believe, I couldn't measure it because I didn't have a functional MRI, but I believe in my house, I've gotten in the gamma state before, particular electrical frequency, which when some Tibetan monks were studied, were able to get into it, and it was profound for their brain function and their brain anatomy. I believe I've gotten into that state several times, but not more than 20. It was fucking crazy. Excuse my French. That's the only way, because curse words are for emphasis sometimes, guys. Fucking crazy. It was an hour in to deep meditation, transcendental, and I'm I feel wacky, dude, but really good. Really good. Recommended stacking 9-ABC with Bacopa. Haven't done it. I don't see it being problematic. No, I don't see it being problematic. That's kind of what I would say. You already asked this, and I told you to explain the context. So for what? For anxiety, for, getting off of benzos, what would you need it for? You got to be specific if you can. Appreciate it. Unsuitable, appreciate your help hanging out for the day. Cheers. Hope you're having a great day, man. Hope you have a great rest of your Sunday. Godspeed, brother. Talk to you soon, man. Malin, best approach to cut weight. Dangers of extremely low calorie diets. Yes, absolutely. You need to cut around 15 pounds. Quite honestly, you sound like you're in a rush to do it, but quite honestly, the best way to cut weight is to do it slowly. Strategically, the best way to cut weight is to go in a 150 to 200 calorie deficit, for 4 or 5 days in a row. Be on maintenance on day 6, 7, a surplus on day 8, 100 to 200 calories so that you reset all the satiety hormones and that you don't feel drained or you don't start fucking with your hormones in general. And then go back on that same 100 to 200 100 to 200 or so calorie deficit for 4 or 5 days. Go back to maintenance, go on a surplus for a day to reset everything, maybe even have a full-on cheat day after 3 iterations of that. That's the best way to lose weight, because then your body will willingly shed fat. When you don't have cheat days when you're losing weight, your body's going to get to the point where it's going to be so stubborn to lose fat because you're starving it, and you can't do that. People that go on starvation diets, you'll lose weight initially, and then they go, why is it stalled? Well, it's because you don't understand physiology, man. Your body needs to then have some food, have a reset, have a couple days of a surplus. Then you go back. If it takes longer, good. If it's harder, good. If it challenges you more, good. If it tests your resolve, good. You'll be a better person as a result, and it's the better way to lose weight. Otherwise, make sure your testosterone levels are high. Zach is saying, I've been trying to find a good source for HCG. Is there a good source of TRT clinic that is affordable? Affordable TRT clinics, that depends on your, relative perspective or whatever. Scale, like on what affordability is. I mean, Defy's pretty epic. Mail Excel does not prescribe HCG because they're ridiculous. Merrick Health will prescribe HCG. TRT Nation will prescribe HCG. I'm trying to think of the other clinics off the top of my head. Matrix Hormones will prescribe HCG. So, other than that, can't really give you sources, but you may want to look into just finding, a good UGL source for that. And there are reputable ones. Ghost Fusion technology is a tool for good or for bad. Absolutely. People love to scapegoat it. Definitely, for why their life isn't where they want it to be. When in reality, it can be leveraged to make everything 10 times easier. I'd not be where I was right now if it wasn't for technology. I built a global e-commerce company with this company, and technology allowed me to do that. No question. Timothy is saying, do you find shockwave therapy is effective with home devices to boost past normal function? Yep, definitely. Yeah. Yes, I do. I have a Phoenix. I have one. This is literally the Phoenix. Okay. This is like the most popular at-home shockwave therapy. Erections firmer, sensation slightly better. All that stuff was good. So it's like, how much better can it be? Obviously it can be better. Yeah. I mean, and I have clients that are using it too, and we're getting results. So yes, the stuff is effective. The clinical research on that is actually pretty conclusive. It's effective. Is anyone stream lagging? ACAS is wondering. Ghost Fusion, I found that I can get into the gamma state from rigorously daily meditation for a month or so, but I can short circuit myself into it with the right kind of binaural beat. Potentially, binaural beats are pretty effective, man. You start listening to those wacky, different, sound frequencies, like, especially if you have headphones and they're designed to come in different ears. And then what happens is your brain synthesizes like an endpoint frequency from those two frequencies. Then, yeah, who's to say you can't get into that state? David Finnegan is saying mainly for social anxiety and for taking the edge off of bromantane caffeine. I don't know what you're talking about. Ask the whole question as one question. I think you're talking about Picamillin. In that case, 100 to 300 milligrams every day or every other day would be my suggestion, bro. But social anxiety also, though, dude, has to do with your place in that social context. If you're around people that aren't like you, don't be around them. Don't try to be around them. Don't try to fit in with people that aren't like you. You're going to have a lot less social anxiety if you just spend time with people that are like you. If you raise your testosterone levels and you're confident about who you are, and you only spend time around people that accept who you are and like who you are, and you become good at things. If you're a competent individual, you're a lot more, socially confident. Also, if your brain's functioning well. So if you're taking good nootropics, you're going to be a lot more socially confident too. What dose for HCG? Well, for your situation, it's difficult to say. I don't know. I mean, I'd have to, do a consult with you to fact find, but general dose, in conjunction with TRT and an AI, and what should be, if you have PSSD, penile rehab too, between 180 and 250 IU a day. You're going to want a good degree of HCG if you're suffering from sexual dysfunction. No question about it. ACOS is asking, is it a myth that TRT is for life? Yes, it's a myth. If you were to cycle off using clone, your T levels would be worse. Well, they will be probably lower than on testosterone. With TRT, it's like you can get your levels up to 1500 if you wanted to. You're probably going to have side effects. And even if you're managing the estradiol, you'll have over androgen, if there's a word for that, androgenicity, androgenizing, side effects. Virilization, and all that'll probably be good, voice be deeper and all that kind of shit. But yeah, you can get significantly high levels of TRT that you really can't match with Clomid. Yeah, I just don't think so. But doesn't mean that it's going to be less effective or whatever. It's like, some people's TRT protocols are so skewed, even though their levels are 1200, that they don't have sexual function. Whereas a guy sitting at 650 on Clomid may. Because he, the estradiol is in a better place or whatever, like the T isn't that high and whatever. So, I lost my chat here. Yeah. So Clomid for sure. I mean, unless you're taking 75 milligrams a day, which I don't suggest, your test will be lower than on TRT. Also depends on the TRT dose. You know what I mean? Some guys feel pretty good and function awesome at like 700 on TRT. Like literally, it's just what their body is. I need to be at 1150. You know, that's just where I feel great. You know, I mean, 900 to 1150, it all feels good, but I feel a little better on 1150. Gotta be honest with you guys. Dianabol, well, I believe that's got some estrogen properties to it, so you'd have to have an AI in there too. I'm pretty sure Dianabol's got some, you know, will convert to estrogen. It's not a DHT derivative. It's certainly going to be, you know, it's going to convert to E2. It's an aromatizing androgen. So, yeah, you know, I don't think it. I've never used it with PSSD, so I wouldn't do it. I definitely would not do that, my friend. You got to approach PSSD meticulously with the right chemicals and the right penile rehab for a long period of time to get results. It's like hardcore rehab, you know. It's like it's so shitty too because all you did was take one drug, you know. That's what's so crappy about, you know, the abomination of the SSRI. Thanks, Eli Lilly. Thanks. You know, you guys jacked up a lot of people. They're the first ones that, you know, bring SSRI out. They were responsible. They're scientists for all the research that said serotonin was behind depression. It's involved, but it's not the cause. Sandu, estradiol was 44, just got blood work done. What would your advice be? How do you feel? How's sexual function? If your boners are good, if your libido is good, if your strength is good, if you don't have water retention, if you're not moody, and you know, you're confident that your protocol will keep your estradiol there, leave it there. However, if any of that stuff is awry, get it down to 30. Okay, get it down to 30, learn to keep it at 30 and go from there. You know, I do well 20 to 30, you know, 35, 37, like I'm okay, you know, but again, it's like past a certain range, starts raising prolactin and it starts messing with erection quality and libido. To give you an idea, so I was at 18, was I at 18 to 27? So I don't know if I can actually do this or show you guys. Can I? Let me see. Yeah, 18 to 27 is a good range for me, but so is 30. 30, look, you know, for estradiol, if you just want a number to shoot for, 25 to 30, but like 30, just go to 30. Honestly, if you can sit at 30, you're gonna have a great time. It's very rare that people at 30 have a difficult time with estradiol. Let me see if I can manage this correctly. Okay, there we go. So we will do this here. Okay, that's my estradiol ultra sensitive after lowering my prolactin by getting my estradiol between 18 and 25. That's my estradiol right now. Well, this was 10.4. Feel fucking great. But when it gets to 38, you know, I start feeling less great. When it gets to 40, because I've experimented with that, erections suffer. All right, so one of the best numbers you can shoot for is just 30. 25 to 30, but 30. That's assuming, you know, again, you're having, you know, symptoms or whatever. So that would be my take on that, my friends. All right, so let's get back to the chat. Does caffeine raise estrogen? I don't know. I don't think so. It wouldn't raise it markedly, I can tell you that much. Ghost Fusion, incredibly controversial to say, but I think SRIs are more to blame for the school shooter epidemics than guns. Potentially. Yeah, potentially. All of them are on it. So, I mean, that's got to say something. Flo is saying, when are the days too late for testing testosterone? How dramatic could the difference be? Pretty different. I mean, I think I know that your testosterone naturally will peak in the morning, right? So you go in the morning and run labs for total testosterone. It'll be different, but not substantially different than if you tested it at 6 p.m. At 6 p.m., it'll be lower, almost definitely. But, you know, it's like, it depends. See, if I was natural and wanting to test it, like I think I always tested it at like 11 a.m. because it was not the absolute peak, not the absolute trough, but probably somewhere in the middle. Aaron Missiner, thanks for the $5. Appreciate it. Says, Nat cleared up my social anxiety and brain fog. Do you think this is an antioxidant issue? If so, what other supplements should I consider? I believe there is some dopaminergic activity of N-acetylcysteine But potentially, it's like there's so much that we can't see in our brains. Maybe because of your gut, or because of COVID, or because of something, you had like high levels of TNF alpha, which is tumor necrosis factor alpha, which is effectively, for all intents and purposes, an inflammatory cytokine, which will enter your brain and will inhibit brain function and cause you to have all kinds of issues neurologically, including social anxiety. A lot of people don't know this, like stuff that's going on with your brain. You may just have high levels of an inflammatory cytokine that is in your brain, messing with brain function. This is in part why the long COVID people have crappy brain function. It's in part why regular Joes are walking around with crappy brain function and don't know why. Like, you may have some inflammatory cytokines, and NAC, is a pretty powerful chemical for reducing inflammatory load, right? Or the effect some of these cytokines have at the tissue level. I think there's some blood flow optimization that is happening with NAC too, so that could be part of it. Zach is saying, just remembered that I got you on. Get on TRT guide. Reliable RX was the place I saw, but I'm not sure which HCG to get. Doesn't matter. Yeah, again, I can't discuss sources here. It's just a YouTube thing. They'd be like, "Oh, you're selling," and we're not at all selling any of that stuff. 8Cas, often do I use PT141? Maybe once a month. Yeah, I've tried using it multiple days in a row. 2 days, insane sexual function. Third day fell off significantly, as predicted. All that hypothalamic dopamine has to come from somewhere. It gets depleted. It's not sustainable to take in that regard. Once a month. Yeah. When I first did the video about that, which is like my first, it's got like 15,000 views or something, video of PT141, I was on the prowl at Pittsburgh hotel bars. And this was like, I don't know, a year and a half ago. Literally. I was so primed for sex that I would go to hotel bars where I knew women would be staying at hotels when they go to bars to MILF hunt, like literally. But again, taking it consistently didn't do that. So once a month, if I really want extreme sexual desire that is abnormally abnormal compared to what my sexual desire is, high as fuck now. It's just high. But PT141, it goes like that, like here's high, here's why I am. PT141 is off the charts. So I don't do it often, because then again, it's like all you can think about is sex. And what will you do in that case? It's like you may call somebody that you shouldn't be calling. Jeff, why dose an AI every other day instead of daily? Well, because of the half-life of most, AIs, and specifically anastrozole. Yeah, you would almost definitely crush your estrogen if you dosed an AI every day. Yeah, unless you were taking 0.06 and splitting it in half and taking 0.03 every day. That might work. Any more than that, you're going to drop the estradiol very, very quickly. ACOS, can PT141 lead to higher levels of libido even after stopping? No. Nope, no mechanism for that. In fact, the mechanism for PT141 would suggest the opposite. That your libido would be somewhat lower for a couple days after stopping, and then it would bounce back based on hypothalamic dopamine coming back to normal. Timothy is saying, do you stay away from plastics to keep your hormones in balance? No. I don't think that it's a bad idea for people that aren't on exogenous hormones to maybe do that. Any little thing you can do, but I don't think it's going to be a significant thing. Those little things become important when it's many, many things that are contributing to hormonal balance. Like say you have hormones, or say you have a bunch of plastic in you drink out of plastic bottles or whatever. And in addition to that, you're consuming a lot of phytoestrogenic foods, In addition to that, your testosterone is already low. Maybe prolactin's high because you take kratom or something like that. Then those things matter. PT141 probably not make you last longer, probably make you last less. Because everything's more sensitive, everything's more insane, everything's more pronounced and intense. Right? That's what I would say about that drug. It's powerful. I mean, the stuff is powerful. Not a solution, by the way, to sexual dysfunction. It may get you to work well temporarily, but it won't cure any sexual dysfunction. But yeah, I don't find it, I find it doing the opposite is what I would confidently say about PT141. All right, guys, I'm going to end the stream. Epic questions. I appreciate your guys' questions. Cortex stack, as you see on the screen, 15% off. The code for that is 15 now. 15 now. 15 now. I actually have the comment for that. It's right there. You guys can save money on an epic nootropic stack right now. Cortex is high level focus. It's pristine flow. Let me go to the page so you can look at the bottle, you know, because that matters, right? You want a good looking stack or whatever. Like, look at that. That is fucking beautiful. I made the label to reflect how this thing feels. Pretty stimulant energy, pretty powerful brain function. Balanced though, right? Not very significant in terms of like, you're never going to get overstimulated unless you're drinking a lot of coffee with it, or if you're very sensitive to certain stimulants. It's just a very, very powerful nootropic stack. 15% off. Again, the code is on the screen. Go get it, livecortex.com. If you need to hire me, you've got consultations open, even for the bigger packages. I just let a bunch of people go, meaning their term ended. So I've got openings now for bigger packages. Book me, livecortex.com. Content this week, obviously, sick, epic breakdowns, short 10 to 15 minute videos. Look forward to it, guys, because I'm looking forward to it, and I love putting out content that you guys like. All right, so look forward to that this week. Modern Warfare 3 beta, for those of you gamers, this weekend, right? For PS5, I don't have a PS5, so I got to wait till next weekend to play it on PC, and I'm pumped. I have a new gaming PC and a fucking RTX 4090, which is the best graphics card money can buy right now, coming in so that I can play that game. I'm that excited. It is both ridiculous and glorious. Hope you guys are looking forward to that game, those of you gamers, because the movement is back and it's way better than Modern Warfare 2, which is filled with campers and idiots. Have a great day, guys. Love ya. Talk to you soon.